Hello, everyone.
That works.
For being here. Sorry for not being there. I mean, it's a great meeting, I believe, because, it's 1.0 release. And I'm super happy to be able to share some of the things related to 1.0 release. So one of the previous slides, Michael has shown 1.0 release and the changes related to it. But actually, it's not all that I think it's worth being described. So, we didn't want to do the big bang to put a lot of changes aside and then merge them at once to make 1.0 release. We didn't want to do it because we're afraid, of them fixing and debugging in a situation where a lot of things were changed at the same time. So instead, we had a list of things that we wanted to be ready with, and we went the agile one by one with those lists. And once it was done, we said, hey, it's 1.0 release. So it's worth having a 5 minutes to step back and refresh on what's been done from that list. And I prepared a slide of just 6 stories, which I think are the most important for 1.0 release. And it starts with 1839, which is Julian's proposal to add a static lineage. So I mean, what's the static lineage? What's the static metadata? So far, OpenLineage was run-centric. It contained only run events, which had information on the run, what's the job. It had information also on some static metadata, like what are the data sets, what are input, output data sets, what's the schema of the data set, the call version, and so on. But it didn't have enough flexibility to give an option to a user to just send a static metadata, like, for example, to define the data owner or marking a dataset as containing personal identifying information. It was run-centric in a way that around the obligatory element of the OpenLineage. And so this proposal says, how do we want to achieve that goal? And after the proposal, there was another PR, 1880, looks like a 19th century history. 1880, which I was lucky to work with, which implemented this. And there was one tricky thing here. So the tricky thing here was that we wanted to stay backward compatible. So we have an OpenLineage schema that defines what's allowed, describes run events, and we wanted to extend it so that it supports dataset event, job events, so just some static metadata information, without changing the existing run events so much and without adding different schemas, because we wanted to have a single endpoint that is able to consume OpenLineage events unrelated, regardless whether it's dataset, job, or run event, which already existed. So this has been done within this PR. And actually, we can read the code together. It's a great story. But the most interesting thing is the line here, those 2 lines, which say, hey, from now on, not only we accept the run event, but we also accept one of the run event, dataset event, and job event. And with this PR, we have modified the clients, the Python client, the Java client. We've also modified some transport within OpenLineage Java client to be able to produce such data. And we wanted to make sure that this is going to work on the backend. Oh, you may ask, how did we decide to distinguish those events? So actually, we decided to rely on an existing schema URL field. If a schema URL field points to a dataset event or job event, it means these are those kinds of events. And if it's something we don't understand, we assume it's still the run event. And this is cool because actually this lets the existing user. So, one of the main purposes let's assume the majority of users is not interested in static metadata, and if they don't want to send it, let's make it in a way there is no change to them. Such an approach let us, achieve that goal. So if you're not interested in static metadata, you don't have to bother. If you are interested, keep in mind to have the schema URL field within your event to point directly to the event types that you want to send. And the next issue and the next PR was Marquez, the ability to store, to decode metadata events. So we made the client changes, and we wanted to make sure that this is going to work on the backend side on Marquez and other clients. And one of the issues here is that Marquez has a relational database that I think that over half of the tables have the column run ID, which is a foreign to the run table. So it's kind of so run centric that it's really hard to implement the events that don't have run ID within it. So I mean, we found it the expensive task, and we wanted to go fast to enable others to make use of this feature. So we decided that we'll just implement the within the Jackson the ability to decode the JSON so that it distinguishes which type of event it is, because this will make sure that our main assumptions are correct, so that the OpenLineage schema is correct because you're able to produce and to consume the event. So within this PR, we don't touch the database, we don't make any changes. We've just written the event type resolver that based on the schema URL to decide which type of Java class should it be deserialized, and Jackson does everything for us. So this made us sure, okay, the approach we are taking is okay, we can proceed with that. The one later it turned out there is still a tiny feature missing. It's a facet deletion. So imagine you've sent some ownership pass yesterday and you would like to delete it, and with the current model, it's not doable. And this one of the PRs I like the most because it's also by Julian. And the other thing is that it contains the proposal and the solution and everything in a single PR. It's self-contained. So the proposal here is that no matter what type of facet you have, later on you can send it with a property, delete it, and the facet can only have the single property. It will be all totally fine. And this will mean to the backend, hey, let's delete this property. So this is another feature that was added. The next one to go is 1997 from Yakub, which does some cleaning within our OpenLineage JSON schema. So we had a situation where our schema was referencing some facet schemas, and this reference was referencing a local file. And for us, I mean, it looked clear what it means. But there are a lot of useful standard tools that are able to validate if a JSON is valid against some defined schema. And for those ready-to-use tools, the schema we had was invalid because it used some references to that were not understood. And it was a big blocker, but we really wanted to, fix it before 1.0 release. The last thing that's on my list is some clarification on the run event lifecycle. So there were it's something that resulted in a documentation, and first it took a discussion. And the important takeaways of this are that complete, abort, and fail are the terminal state, which means if you are consuming the events specific to some run ID, if you get one of those, it means you are done with the run ID. There will be no other events for this run ID. And it's something worth putting in docs to help others to implement the consumers. That's the one thing. The other interesting question was, why do we have other and running states? How was the difference between them? And the point here is that we assume that running has to be after start and before terminal state, but other is allowed to be before start. So, you know, imagine a scenario when someone's requesting some resources to start a job. So the job isn't started before the resources are acquired, and still, and now some event so an event has to be emitted that the resources were requested. And for that purpose, we would like to keep the other state. Additionally, you know, I think in the future there will be more and more integrations to OpenLineage, and having other is like a cool option to
I think that's the end. You get cut off.
Okay. Any question on this? I love to be the favorite PR of Paweł. So of course, there's been a lot of work going in there. And we're really looking forward to feedback on the static lineage part. I'm sure there are people on the call who were interested in this. And so this is just the beginning.
Yeah,
so yeah, go ahead.
And maybe Julian, like I'm going to, so as Paweł mentioned, there was a PR to support ingestion of static lineage in Marquez, but the discussion, as he pointed out, we didn't want to rush it because the run ID is such a core relationship that we have within all of our tables. So I just posted a link to the issue that really says that we need to propose a design to support static level lineage. So if there's anyone on the call that's interested on the consumption side on how we might go about processing static lineage, please chime in. There's a proposal coming out that I need to work on, but we're going to get there. And if you want to be involved in the discussion, feel free to chime in on the issue.
Sounds good. And that's issue 2544 on the Marquez project.